All right, let's try that again. It sounds like maybe we're doing a little bit better now. Seems like I'm getting some waves on the default microphone thing. If you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up. But otherwise, let's get started. Okay, so first question comes from Kimberly Benjamin. What are things to take into consideration when compensating employees and contract workers? One of my businesses is a hair salon, and I want to sell direct to consumer products. And I have my sister who has a great deal of followers online, and I want to offer her a way to make money with me by focusing on sales, by posting the products and bringing in new business. I would like to offer her a commission since I don't have the budget to do salary. What are some things I should take into consideration to incentivize her and make sure she is happy and I make a profit? Really, what you're asking about at this point is what are your gross margins and how does your gross margins affect your ability to make sales? A lot of times when people figure out what their gross margins are, they're thinking very much in terms of, you know, cool, I have this product and I make it for $20 and am I happy making $20 on top of it? So I'll sell it for 40 and I make 20 bucks. Cool, that's great. But a lot of times you don't finish that thought process, which is, well, how much is it going to cost me to actually make this sale, right? So I have my overhead. I've got rent and payroll and, you know, cost of goods sold, the product itself, like the stuff. But you have to always factor in your sales cost when you're figuring out, in your marketing cost, when you're figuring out like your business model and does this actually make sense before you get started. So like in this particular question, you're making reference to how much commission can I pay? Well, how much commission you can pay really depends on what your margin is on these different products or services or whatever it is that your sister is going to be selling. So I would say first step is on a per item basis, know exactly how much money you make in terms of real dollars and in terms of as a percentage. And if that number, I mean, I don't know what the right number is. Different from industry to industry, product to product. But if that number somewhat makes sense when you say, okay, cool, I can send my sister out and she's going to sell, 10 of these items per stop, and each item is $20, so that's $200. I know my gross margin is 30, or my cost of goods is 30%, so that's $60 in cost. So on a $200 sale, I make $140, and of that $140, I'm happy to give away $40 of it to my sister to go do the sales and marketing, so I don't have to think about it. So I make $100 on that deal. Cool, that makes sense. If you can't go through some sort of like math or conversation like that kind of makes sense, where you feel like you would be happy and that you've got money coming into the business, and your salesperson would also be happy because they're making enough money themselves, or they don't have to sell like a billion things in order to make $5. That's another common mistake I see people making when they start thinking about sales. You have to remember, a salesperson is trying to make money too, right? So it's your job to give them some sort of future, right? They're essentially a business partner in this whole thing, because they only make money if they grow the business and if they make sales, just like you. So you have to make sure that you're giving them that you've built a business and you've built a model where they can succeed and where they can make money in some sort of reasonable way. Not that they don't have, like, you have to work for it. They absolutely have to work for it, and you should hold them to the expectation that they're going to work hard. But there's got to be a clear path to how much money they can make in some period of time through some amount of effort. All right, next question. Roy Mangrum. How do I look to structure my pricing for a new service that I want to provide to a new customer base I am looking to develop for my business? I own a clothing brand with a warehouse in Tennessee and looking to add extra revenue by offering fulfillment of products for other companies that do not want to do fulfillment for themselves, since I have the warehouse space and labor. How would you recommend me researching to figure out how much I should charge? That's a great question. So first off, kudos to you for maximizing your asset utilization, right? So you have all these assets, you've got people, you've got buildings, you've got all these processes you put in place, you have extra capacity, so you're going to sell that extra capacity to maximize your asset allocation. Like, you use your assets, which is great. So that's a good. So with that in mind, it's not such a clear question, right? Because if you're setting up a fulfillment business starting from zero, your offering would be slightly different in terms of pricing and such. Your offering would be slightly different in terms of pricing than it would be if you're selling off excess capacity. So the question that I would ask is, are you just trying to make incremental additional revenue out of the business you have? So if you sell one more dollar, you know, and because it's not really costing you anything, a zero marginal cost to doing this fulfillment thing. So I would, in that case, would just charge, I would undercut everybody, charge the lowest possible thing and max out my space, and then increase the price until I don't have 100% capacity anymore, right? Like that I haven't maxed out all my space. Now, if I'm thinking of this as a standalone business that I'll eventually have to buy more space and like expand, I might price things differently. But if I'm literally just filling up excess capacity that I know I'm not going to use anyway, and if if there's a zero marginal cost, roughly zero marginal cost, or even if there's just an additional cost that I can account for, I would incrementally just charge a little bit more than that to make sure that I just max out the space. Assuming that I'm selling based on price, right? Assuming that I can fill up the space just by setting the right price, which may or may not happen. The fulfillment business is a great business. I know a lot of guys in giant companies that are just doing, that's their whole business is fulfillment. And so you might find yourself in a new business, and that might become a big part of your business or a whole additional business. So yeah, that's kind of where I would start in knowing what it's going to cost me to deliver that additional service and how much I will potentially make from that effort. Okay, next question. Ricardo Delgado. How does a company build a leadership team from scratch? I own a barbershop and eventually I would like to start developing a leadership team or hire a manager. What is the first step you would do? Or what should I look into first? Thank you. So leadership development is like one of the hardest things that you'll do. I mean, you'll do a lot of hard things as an entrepreneur, but leadership development is difficult because you're dealing with a bunch of different components. Putting in new leadership into any business, there's a cost involved. So you're going to have to budget for that, and you're going to have to create a business model around that to make sure you can now create, that your business can scale big enough to be able to pay and still be profitable as you increase your kind of corporate overhead. So you have to kind of look at that sort of business model stuff first, and how do the numbers work when you have this additional person in there? Assuming you got all those numbers to work and everything makes sense on paper, now you've got to go through the process of defining what is the role, right? A lot of times people say the leadership team or whatever, and all they're really is how they've defined the role is basically just by a title, like a generic title. You're going to be the COO, or you're going to be the CFO, or you're going to be some title, whatever. In your particular business, you need to be clear what are the expectations of that leadership role. What do you expect them to do? And write it down. Be very clear how it fits into your org chart. Be very clear on what you're needing from them. And then, of course, third, now you have to actually find that person. Make sure they're a good culture fit. Make sure they have the experience that you need, or that you're going to be able to train them up to the experience that you need if they're not there yet, but they're a good culture fit and they're a good, they're starting from a good place. So, yeah, and then once you hire them, there's and you start to put them in position of leadership. You need to make sure that you delegate. You don't abdicate. That's one of the things that I had to learn a couple times the hard way. Is delegation still means that you're paying attention from like an accountability perspective and you're aware of what's going on. Abdication is where you literally just give them the thing and walk away and you never look at it again until the wheels fall off. So that whole process of hiring, training, making sure that they're integrated into the company, and then you're truly delegating to them as opposed to abdicating to them. So it's a multi-step process. Jessica Stahl. When do I know if I should fire a team member, whether contractor or employee? I have a business consulting and coaching business for the roofing industry. I have an employee, even though they have not technically signed their W-2 agreement, that I pay $75,000 per year. She performs well in some tasks, but we are having a very serious value system and respect and boundary problem. She speaks to me as though she has no respect for me and the company, and many of her personal mannerisms have come into the workplace and are completely unprofessional in private and public settings, even with team members. I know I should let her go, but there is one client that owes us a lot of money, and I'm concerned that they will not pay or keep paying, and I'm also a little bit concerned about her trying to compete with me. What should I do? Fire her, or I should say this is causing me a lot of stress as well. This one is like one of the easiest questions that I will get today. Fire her. It's pretty much that straightforward. I mean, everything you described here is like somebody you don't want to be around. She's not going to do anything good for your business. She's a cultural cancer. And the fact that she has this connection to this customer, that's just something you're going to have to deal with. Because that's one issue that you'll have to deal with. That's one negative thing that I can see of you getting rid of this person. When by keeping her around, she's going to be continuously creating more and more problems that are going to be much more troublesome than just that one. And also you're saying the stress thing as well. Like, why do you want to live like that, right? Like that's not helping anyway. Your opportunity cost of that stress level on you when you could be thinking or doing something more productive, she's capturing all of your future value or big amounts of your future value by creating this environment. So yeah, unfortunately, I know it's not an easy thing to do, but you're probably going to have to fire her given what you've written here. Next question, Catherine Pollard. How do I figure out what KPIs I should be monitoring for my position with my company? I am head of accounts for a marketing agency. I want to provide measurable goals for the growth of the company as well as for myself. Head of accounts for a marketing agency. So here's my thing about, if I'm understanding just from those titles and name of things, marketing agencies are notorious in my experience for not providing measurables to their customers or holding themselves to any particular measurable. And again, I don't know if this is you, this is just my own experience based on the term marketing agency, where they execute some sort of process, but the customer doesn't really care about the process being executed. They care about the result that the process produces. So if I was going to be head of accounts for a marketing agency, I would focus on measuring the output, the actual result of what we're doing for our customers, so that I can report that back to our customers, and hopefully it's good, and they can see that it's good, and then they'll keep using us. Or if it's not good, we can look internally and try to figure out why it's not good, and what we could do to make it good, so that the focus is on the result to the customer, not just the fact that we executed a process. So I would build KPIs around around the results that we produce for our customers. And are we hitting what they want from us in terms of outcomes, not just doing stuff? Lamont Gray. How much should I pay myself? I provide point of sale systems and security cameras to businesses and homeowners. I have grown my business from being a side hustle to the point where it earns more money than my regular 9 to 5. And I am now transitioning to my business full time. Should I pay myself the same salary as I was earning in my 9 to 5, pay myself a salary that is competitive for the position IT support in my industry locally, or pay myself a percentage of the profits each year? If you're in the early stages of your business and you're making, let's say, just for example, let's say in your 9 to 5 you're making $80,000 a year. And now let's say that in your side hustle or your soon-to-be full-time hustle business, you're generating $80,000 a year. You should definitely not pay yourself $80,000 a year in that scenario with your new business, because you should be writing off every expense that you can think of legally to reduce that $80,000. When you were working for somebody else and they were paying you a W-2, then you're paying all kinds of taxes that you are not able to write off. So essentially, if you have $80,000 coming in on a W-2 from an employer, or if you have $80,000 coming in that you're making yourself that you can write a bunch of stuff off of, you're actually making more than you were with your other employer, because you're going to save a whole ton of money on taxes. So my suggestion would be pick a number. Again, I need to know the specific details, but I would say pick some low base number that is your salary, some number, because you can't write it all off. You're going to have to pay something. So make that your base salary, whatever that is, 20 some thousand, 25,000, 30,000 a year, 40,000. I have no idea what you're dealing with. You could be dealing with millions at this point. I don't know. But some fraction of what you're actually able to take out. Then write off all the things you can write off that you can legally write off as part of the business expense. And then take the rest as profit. That's what I would do if I was you. And I'm not a tax expert, so I'm not giving you tax advice. I'm just telling you how I would do it. So I might be wrong and I might be doing something not right. So don't listen to me. Talk to your tax advisor. But there's some scenario in there that's legal and going to be most advantageous to you. Okay, next question. Lamont Gray. What different bank accounts should I have for my business and what is the purpose of each? I provide point of sale systems, security cameras, IPTV service, and IT support to businesses and homeowners. I have 2 standard business accounts at 2 banks and a few personal bank accounts. In the early stage of my business, I use my personal account to cover business expenses, and I also receive payments from clients. I have since transitioned to making all business purchases on my business account, but still allow clients to send payments to my personal account for their convenience. It is becoming very difficult to manage and see revenue from my business as both my business and personal accounts seem to be mixed. Do I need to clearly establish accounts like operations account, business savings accounts, personal operations, bills and personal savings, etc.? Okay. Okay, great question. This is important. So you do need to make sure that you separate your personal and business activities, like clearly, because then when you get into doing your taxes at the end of the year, and if you ever get audited or something like that, keeping those things completely separate is very important. So I would say stop letting your customers send revenue into your personal account. Like figure out a different way to still make it convenient for them, but make sure it goes directly to your business, not to you. That's the first thing. Second thing, you don't really need all those accounts, I don't think, unless there's something that I'm missing. I mean, like most of my businesses, we might have a couple different accounts for various kind of storing money reasons or something. But for the most part, we're operating out of one checking account per business, per entity, right? Like I probably have 20 million checking accounts, but there's only one entity connected to each account for the most part. And all your revenue should flow into that account. All your expenses flow out of that account. And it should be really simple and clean like that is what I would think. If you really want to get into, we're back. Are we back? All right, and then that's it anyway. We're kind of done for the day, so we will just stop it there.